and all of my devotion. There's nothing in this world that could ever satisfy. Through every trial, my soul will sing, no turning back. I've been set free. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for me. Everything I need is in you. Everything I need. Christ, my all in all, my joy and my salvation. And this hope will never fail. Heaven is my home. Yes, Lord. Through every storm, my soul will sing. Jesus is here to guide me the glory. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for me. Everything I need is in you. Everything I need, I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The cross before me, the world behind me. No turning back, no turning back. The cross before me, the world behind me. No turning back, no turning back. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for me. Everything I need is in you. Everything I need. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turn. Sing it again. I have decided. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. Yes, Lord. And that is our confession this morning, oh God. From February 9th, that's almost, wow, that's been a month already. From February 9th to 13th, my wife and I went to Mexico for a vision trip to Aguascalientes, Mexico. Today, I had in mind to talk about it like a couple weeks after that, but because of things happened and I had to go away and so on. So today, I'd like to share with you about that vision trip. Aguas Calientes is located somewhere in the center of Mexico. It's a central Mexico. It is considered to be one of the safer places in Mexico. And I was told that in Aguas Calientes there are two Nissan factories, two big Nissan factories. And one of them is actually closing down so that they moved to the other one, the newer one. When my wife and I boarded from Dallas heading to Aguas Calientes, we fully expected us two to be the only Asian there, but there were a couple more, maybe 2-3 more Asians, and I knew there was a Nissan factories were in Aguas Calientes, so I figured that those other Asians were related to the Nissan factories. As some of you know, missionary Chung Myung Nam, who came here in August, and his wife Kwon Chung Hee, they have been serving in Aguas Calientes for 18 years now. 18 years is a long time. I first met missionary Chung, his wife, about 10 years ago in December of 2015. When I visited Aguas Calientes, and an opportunity to meet him and see what he was doing. That was about 8 years into his ministry. Since that time, we have been supporting the mission and the missionaries at Aguas Calientes. As KPCT and JRC, that's the name that's been distant memory now. JRC as we came together, we continue to support. We continue to support for that work and the missionaries. The purpose of this recent trip was to observe what God was doing through the missionaries, missionary couples, and to have the much conversation with the missionaries, and also to see the ministry opportunities for our church members, so that how we can get involved with them. First, let me share about the current mission situation in Aguas Calientes. The church, the missionaries. I'm going to try to. Can you flip one? Thank you so much. The church, the missionaries serve, composed entirely of local people. No, there are no Koreans there. There are no Koreans in Aguas Calientes. The church is called, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, Huerto del Árbol Frondoso, which means the leafy tree. A church, the leafy tree. And this is the outside view, and this is from other angle. This is like triangle. Over, if you look from the top, it's almost like a triangle, and the land is not that large, but they constructed the building, 2-story building, with a support from the United States, the monetary support from United States. The average attendance of the Sunday attendance is about 120 to 130 people. But they said when everyone gathers there's about 150. When the missionaries are away, there are other people who can preach on Sundays, and lay leaders are well established. So worship service continues without a glitch, even in pastors' absence. And recently, not only at this location, but they have begun leading worship service once a month in a rural church located about 40 minutes from their location, expanding the reach of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So they begun a new place. when I shared my plan, our plan to visit the trip to visit and our trip to Aguascalientes, missionary John mentioned that they were planning a seminar for the church leaders, the teachers, and volunteers, and asked me if I can share a message, a leader seminar, and that is. So on that evening that we arrived, I led a seminar. After the flight, a long flight, and after all that, I led a seminar, and people gathered around 8 p.m., a little later than our time, but 8 p.m., and had pizza, and the seminar began around 8:30, ended around 10:30 into the night. And these are the people, and on behalf of our church and all of you, I had a privilege of providing pizza for everyone. We bought pizza for everyone that night. About 70 people attended that evening's seminar, and some already had left by the time that we took that picture, including some people from that rural area church. They were there participating in that seminar, and some young people had to leave because they had night work. They had work to do. And when we entered the church, this was the scene of kind of table setup and so on. But when we entered the church, there was a little young man of maybe 12 or 13 years old. He was greeting us from the door, and I thought that's a little strange. 12 or 13-year-old greeting people at the door, and he was serving as a part of the incoming committee. 12 or 13 years old, just greeting people at the entrance. Later on, missionary John explained that about 90 people in the church were serving in some manner within the church. 90 people. That's 120 people coming. Every Sunday, 120, 130 people coming. But 90 people were serving and actively in the congregation. And one of the missionaries, like pastor of philosophy, is that every church every church member should be doing something, should be serving in one way or another. And it was clear that his philosophy was being lived out or practiced within that church. And among all the ministry of the church, the most active and effective ministry is the children's ministry. Through conversation with the missionaries during their visit here in last October, and during this trip, I could clearly see and sense their hearts for the children's ministry. Their conviction is fairly simple. If the gospel of Jesus Christ is planted and nurtured in children from the early ages, then it will bear fruit. That is their conviction. And during the seminar, there was a time to introduce and encourage ministry team. Missionary Zhang's wife, missionary Kwan, she pointed to this one lady, this young woman, and said she was one of the first one who came to the church when they started the ministry in Aguascalientes. Now she's older. 18 years later, she's older. Now she's faithfully serving at the church. So she's been with the church for like 18 years. Coming as a child and raised and nurtured. And now she's serving faithfully within the church. I'm listening to that and go, wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. The children's ministry that I just briefly mentioned just now, children's ministry take place in various different villages. Villages is kind of difficult to imagine villages these days here in the United States. But yes, villages. Currently, teams of teachers and aid, they go out to 7 different villages to do the children's ministry. After they gather children for praise and motions, the worship motions and biblical teaching and snacks and some small gifts. We visited this place about 40 on Thursday afternoon. It was about 40 minutes from the church. This was a building that they have in each villages, and the government actually construct this. So they have shade and they have gathering places, and as they do activities there. That day, 3 ladies and 1 man, they loaded the tables. Some of the tables that you will see over there. So they loaded the tables and portable sound system, and also teaching materials and snacks and gifts into the van that is parked on the side over there on the left, right? On the left. And they drove about 40 minutes, and then they set up everything, and they wait for the children to come, and they do come, and they do their ministry. They do their work. And watching them doing all this ministry, I thought they were doing a very good job. They were doing excellent job. So I mentioned that to missionary's wife, missionary Kwan, and I said, they're amazing. And she goes, Pastor, we've been doing this for 17 years. Meaning they ought to be good. They should be good. We've been doing it for 17 years. And she pointed one of the lady that was serving there, and she goes, she's been doing this for 10 years. She's been serving in the children's ministry for 10 years. After the ministry ended, they asked me to do the closing prayer. So I prayed for them, and we took a picture that you saw earlier. And these are the some small groups they divide into and do the biblical teachings and arts and craft. So after that, on our way back, he did not take the same road, but he took the side road and go back the corner to some other places, and showed us several locations where the similar children ministry were taking place on Saturdays. This was the one that was doing on Thursday, but other places they do on Saturday. So the children's ministry is happening in different places. And this is the same place. Where am I? Okay. This is one of the places that's taking place on Saturdays. Now, the apartment there, they said one of the teachers actually lived there for the ministry so that she can reach out to those. So they actually moved into location that they want to minister, and they live there among the people, and they do one of these. And this is one of them. This is one of the places they actually visited. And this is the other place. They are happening on Saturdays. And these are some of them are big, and some of them are a little smaller with a tent on top of it. And just gather children to do the ministry, to teach and to love, to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And in addition to the church, Missionary Zhang also built a mission center. That's the mission center. When I visited about 10 years ago, he had just purchased the land. There was a flat land with a dirt. And they only begun just digging up some of digging the foundation. That was about 10 years ago. But however, the construction is finished now, but it took about 8 years to finish that building. 8 years. The reason is because when the fund comes in, they would build. They will build as much as the fund lasts. But then when the fund runs out, then they wait until other funds come in, and then they will build a little more. Finally, it took them 8 years. About 2-3 years ago, this building was completed. Now, this is the outside from their lawn. And this is from the street point of view. Now, inside the mission center, there's a large hall that can hold about 200 people. There are beds. There are beds in different each rooms. There are many rooms in there. And there are bathrooms and kitchen. And there are even small swimming pool which the children can use. And also they can baptize people in that pool. And also there are separate lodging areas like this, a lodging and kitchen area for the visiting mission teams. So they thought of a lot of things. So meeting room and the sleeping areas, the bathrooms, the kitchen, and also some areas for the mission teams as well. Where am I? Oh, there we go. And some of the ministries that is happening in that mission center are local. Some local churches use this facility with a small fee, and also they often have like pastors seminar for the local pastors. So we invite the local pastors to do the local pastors seminar, and also they do children's camp, youth camp, and the children's camp. Now this, I believe, is a youth camp where they gather youth of young age and do the camp during the summer. And this is one of the children's camp they must have took from upstairs, huh? And you can see, because they must have ran out of lodging, so they tented a pitch tent outside to have those to accommodate those young ones, and also as a children's camp. Now, this camp is, you will see that they wear some uniforms and others. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Other ministry that Pastor Missionary John is desire and want to do is and praying for is orphanage. You will not only that's not only for the orphans, but those children who cannot live with their parents for one reason or another. Maybe they've been taken away from the children, they got to replace it in different places, and so on. We remember when Missionary John was here in last October, that he expressed a desire to do the orphanage, and after seeing how well they do the children's ministry, and I thought they would do an excellent job if there is an orphanage and they are involved with the orphanage as well. When they visited last October, someone in our church made some designated offering of some amount. And encouraged by the gift, encouraged by the offering, the missionaries are praying and seeking God's guidance and will, and waiting for the next step to take. How can our church participate with what they're doing? One of the goals of this mission trip was to see how our church can support their ministry effectively a little more. How can our church members, personally, participate in this mission works? Those were some of the questions that we were asking. Sending financial support is precious and important as you continue to support him and the ministry, but visiting the mission field and being involved in firsthand with a ministry is a completely different experience. It allows us to see how God is working. God is working in the place. the work of God being done in that place. We can see that with our eyes. We can touch with our eyes. And as we were discussing this with a missionary mentioned something. The children's camp. They did that in previous years. Some churches sponsored the children's camp like this. At the mission center. The supporting church would provide T-shirts like we see the unified T-shirts, and small gifts like the teddy bears and dolls, and they would make this camp successful and a lot more meaningful. But unfortunately, last year, they weren't able to have that summer camp because there was no supporting church. So he asked whether our church is willing, or our church would consider hosting this year's summer camp. That support would include financial support for meals for the children and the teachers that will be involved. A mission team would some maybe T-shirts and some small gifts, and also the mission team would help out with the dormitory preparation and also assisting food preparation as well, and also helping the children with arts and craft as their teacher are doing the lessons. And also, that ministry team would actively praying for children during the time of this worship, and also doing some extra the worship and presentation as well, preferably in Spanish. Short-term missions like this, I've been to several short-term missions, and they are great help. Short-term missions like this can be great blessings for our spiritualities. And also preparing for the short-term mission, as a short-term mission team come together to pray and to prepare, and that can be helpful with our spiritual growth as well. I am planning to talk to our elders, and also to see if there are those who are willing to go to the summer mission with us, and to see to participate in this. And then we'll make the decisions in a few weeks, in a couple of weeks, maybe in a few weeks. As I was preparing this message, God reminded me of Apostle Paul's heart toward the Philippian church. Now, the Philippian church began in Acts chapter 16, when God led Paul and his companion to Macedonia, and a city within the Macedonia area was Philippi. From there, Paul met this woman named Lydia, and God opened her heart. She believed in Jesus. She was baptized, and that's where the church began, at Lydia's house. And from that point on, the Philippian church became supporters of the Paul's mission work. Now, in Philippians 4:15 and 16, Apostle Paul writes this: "Moreover, as you Philippians know, in the early days of your acquaintance, in the early days of your acquaintance with the gospel, when I set off from the Macedonia, not one church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving." He said, no other churches shared with me except you. But you're the only one who shared. For even when I was in Thessalonica, you sent me aid again and again when I was in need. You see, after church was established in Philippi, Paul left the place and went to Thessalonica, and where he had severe persecution from the Jews and from oppositions, from the jealousies. When Philippian believers heard of what was happening to Paul in Thessalonica, they began to send him aid, support Not only twice, but again and again, again and again. And that's not all. And that's not all. When Apostle Paul was imprisoned in Rome in years later, the Philippian church sent a man named Epaphroditus with a financial support and a letter. He was sent to take care of Paul as he was in the prison. So they sent a man to take care of him, to serve him in all that they can. So Philippian churches not only supported financially, they supported in other ways as well. And as Apostle Paul is thinking about that, as Apostle Paul is thinking about the Philippian church, this is what he says in Philippians chapter 1, verse 3 to 6. Listen to this. I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. Now, Paul's heart toward the Philippian church was filled with the gratitude and joy, the thanksgiving and joy. He says, I thank God every time I remember you. And in verse 4, he goes, in all my prayers for you, I always pray with joy. There was a gratitude and there's joy. And certainly, he was thankful for the financial support that he was getting. But it was more than that. He rejoiced over them because he saw their passion for the kingdom of God and for the gospel of Jesus Christ. They had been partnership with him, or they have been participating in the work of the gospel from the first day until now. Now, this now is when Paul is imprisoned. This years later. He goes, you've been partnering with me from the first day until now. And he's confident that they would continue till the day of Jesus Christ. You know, when I look at how the Philippian church supported Paul, we see two important characteristics of their support. First, it's a generous support. During Paul's short ministry to Thessalonica, they sent support more than once, again and again. Paul says this in Philippians 4:18. Listen to this. He goes, 4:18. I have received full payment, and even more, I am amply supplied. You gave me so much. Now that I have received from you, Epaphroditus, the gift you sent, they are fragrant offering, an acceptable sacrifice, pleasing to God. Philippian church were not stingy when they sent the support for Apostle Paul. They were very generous in their giving. Second thing, it is consistency in their support. It's constant support. Their support was constant. Paul says they participated in the gospel from the first day until now. Now, for missionaries, constant support is incredibly precious. I have heard that some churches, whenever the mission committee leaders, the head changes, the mission support may be delayed or even be stopped. But Philippian church supported Paul faithfully from the beginning, continuing till that time, and they will continue until the end. That kind of partnership in the gospel is truly, truly precious. Over the time, I have come to realize something very clear. And that is, the mission work in the mission field does not happen without support. Yes, that mission work in other places, they do not happen without support. Especially, it is true in a nation, in a place where Christians make up only about 2% of the entire population. And God has given us the task. God has given us the task, both local missions and also overseas missions as well. Sharing the gospel with those, our neighbors who are around us, and also to share the gospel with those who are far and away. This is the mission that God has entrusted to local churches, to every church that is. As long as the church exists, that mission, that task must continue. And we must participate in mission with a generosity and with a consistency. That is something that we do need to do. So church, do not be stingy to God. Do not be stingy in the work of the Lord. As you serve generously and faithfully in God's work in this manner, then God will be generous and faithful to us as well, as we continue to serve, as we continue to do the work that God has placed us in our church, in our lives. May the God of abundance, may God of faithfulness continue to provide and continue to be faithful to all of you as you continue to be faithful to Him.